guys, so what we're going to be doing in this video is on this 2019 300XC here. I'm 239 pounds without gear, so I'm about 245, 250 with gear, and this spring that comes with the bike factory is not going to fit it, it's not going to cut it for me, so I went to Slavens Racing and I got this 5.2 replacement spring. They only had them in orange, they were back ordered on white, which doesn't matter to me. But we're going to go ahead and install this at home today with just a few simple hand tools, and I'll show you how you can do it too. Alright, so the first thing you need to do to install that spring on the rear shock is you need to remove the silencer. And so there's two T30 Torx that you're going to have to remove. There's two. Now on these silencers on the two-strokes, there's a rubber thing that holds it onto the pipe, and all you really need to do is kind of just wiggle it loose, and it'll come right off. There you go. And just to show you that this is a non-spark arrestor model, goes all the way in. There's no spark arrestor, which means I can't use this on the trail because U.S. Forest Service prohibits bikes without spark arresters. So I will be replacing this with a FMF model that I have in the house after we get done with the spring. The next thing you want to do is you want to remove the seat and this plastic piece here next to the shock, because we're going to end up pulling the shock straight out the left side. So there's a T30 here right under the seat. And you kind of just lift and pull, and there's your seat. Next thing we need to do is remove this piece of plastic next to the shock, and this is going to be a T45 Torx. One more, looks like a T30 underneath. You don't have Torx, these all have hex heads on them, so you can figure out what they take, but it's usually between a 10 and a 13 mil. Next thing to remove is this piece of plastic here. We've already taken the bolt out here, the bolt out here, there's a bolt under here, and then there's another 6 mil right here that you can get to without removing the fuel tank. And there you go. It clips on here, so you need to slide this back to get this piece of plastic off. Next step is to go ahead and remove the T40, loosen up the T45, which is also a 13 mil hex head that's on the bottom of the shock here, and then loosen it up on here, top of the shock. Alright, after you've gone ahead and you've loosened up the upper and lower shock mount bolts, you're going to go ahead and use a 17 millimeter hex and undo the linkage arm down here on the bottom of the linkage. Alright, so the next step, now that you've got both the upper and the lower shock mount bolts loosened, and you've got the nut off of your lower linkage, you're going to have to relieve some pressure off of this rear, off the rear swing arm here by kind of just putting your foot under here, lifting up a little bit, and then pushing the linkage bolt out the other side. And there you go. We've got this bolt. There's a little flat side, that'll clear the chain, set that aside. Alright, now you can go ahead and remove your lower shock mount bolt. Pop that out of there. Go ahead and drop your linkage down. What you're going to do now is you're going to go ahead and get your left hand on the shock. Get the top shock mount bolt out. Carefully drop this down. There you have it, guys. Shock is out. You didn't have to take the swing arm or the tire off. Just a little bit of finagling to do that. So go ahead and get this on the vise and get this old spring off. Alright guys, so the next thing you're going to want to do after you get the shock out is you're going to want to go ahead and put it in a vise. I just bought this vise today literally just to do this job. And I don't have soft clamp jaws for this, so I would just put a rag in there, and it's got a steel bushing on the top of the shock mount, so you're not going to hurt it, but it is going to move around a little bit. So what you want to do to get the spring pressure, if you don't have a spring clamp, you can use the 4mm Allen head. Release this collar here, and then you're going to turn this red collar down until you take all the tension off of the spring, and then you can take it off that way. And I got a Enduro Engineering spring preload adjuster from Slavens Racing, and this one is designed so that you can change this preload when the spring is on the bike. It's better to do a bench setup on it first and then put it on the bike, set the sag after you're on the bike, but you want to get it close before you get on there. And the manual recommends 8 to 10 millimeters of spring pretension or preload, which we'll go over later. But the first thing we're going to do is get this spring off right now. Alright, so you're going to take your 4mm Allen, go ahead and loosen up this black collar here. It is in there pretty tight, so get that loose. Okay, now that this is loose, you're going to go ahead and use your spanner, or you can just, if you don't have one, just literally turn the spring. Okay, I've got it almost down to the last thread. Now on the bottom, there's a flat washer, a retainer, and then there's a little kind of a circlip on here. You can literally just grab that with your thumb, or use a knife or something to pop that off of there. So you take that off, go ahead and pull the retaining collar off, pull the flat washer off. You're going to put them back in the same order, and here you go, you can slide the spring off. Guys, this spring is brand new. If you guys need one, hit me up and I'll ship it to you. Just pay for shipping, and maybe these are about $120 from Slavens, so $75 plus shipping, it's yours. Alright guys, so now that we got the old spring off, it's time to put this new spring on, and for me, being 239 without gear, Slavens recommended I run their 5.2, which I'm not even really sure what that means, but that's obviously a higher spring rate. It's 5.2 kilograms per millimeter. So, go ahead and take this off. Before you preload the spring, you want to know what the length is. This is 10 3/16. 10 3/16. I don't know, I'll have to do some conversion to see what 10 millimeter, but 10 millimeter would be like 3/8 of an inch or something, so 10 3/16, it would be something under 10, 9 7/8 or something. But, alright, so we're going to go ahead and put this. Now we've got the spring on, we're going to go ahead and put the flat washer back on. Go ahead and put the retainer back on. I'm going to go ahead and put the circlip thing back on here. This is a really easy job, guys. I mean, I've never done this before, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. So now that you got that on there, hold it up. Go ahead and spin your collar back on. I'm going to break out my tool now. I'm going to go ahead and do a conversion real quick on my phone to see what 8 to 10 millimeters is. And then, but the way you would use this, if you were tightening it, you would go this way on the bench. Literally just like that. It's a pretty simple tool, but it definitely works. And this is designed that you can do this on the bike. So you set it close on the bench, and then you measure your sag on the bike in full riding gear. So I'm going to go ahead and find out what the 8 to 10 mil is in inches, because I don't have a millimeter, I don't have a caliper, and then we'll get going from there. Alright guys, so a real simple calculation here is if my spring was 10 3/16 inches long without a load on it, and I want to take it, was it 8 to 10 mil, so let's set it at 9 to 10 mil because I'm a heavier guy, probably at the topper end of this range, so let's just do 10 mil off the bat. That's about 3/8 of an inch, so 3/8 is 6/16, so 10 3/16, you're going to be at about 9 and 13/16 when you get it set. So I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing down to 9 and 13/16 inch length, and then I'm going to go ahead and set the collar. We're going to put it back on the bike. Boom. I'm at 9 and 13/16. So I'm going to go ahead and set the collar and get this put back on the bike. Alright guys, so now that we've got the spring on the shock, we're going to go ahead and put it back in the bike here. You want to make sure of a couple things. Make sure that the threaded end on the bottom shock mount here is facing the driver's side, and make sure the WP is facing your side. Go ahead and slip it in here carefully. I like to pull this plastic back. That upper shock mount in there. Next thing I'm going to do here is, after I've gotten the top shock mount started, I'm going to get the bottom shock mount started. Go ahead and make sure your lower linkage bolt here is nice and clean. I'm just going to wipe it off of my shirt. Go to the driver's side, slide back in with the flat spot on top. What you want to do is go ahead and get this nut started on the lower linkage bolt. Again, on this bike, 2019, it's a 17mm hex head. And then all the torques for these should be in the manual. Okay guys, it's very important to torque everything to spec, so I'm using the manual here, and on page 146, technical data, it says screw bottom shock absorber 44.3 foot-pounds, top shock absorber 44.3. So since I'm going to do two of the same, I'm going to make sure I've got the right thing here. Got my torque wrench, I'm going to set the 44. It's 44 up there. Linkage lever to angle lever, that's what that is, 59 foot-pounds. There we go, 59. We're all good to go there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put all the plastic back on, put the seat back on, and we're going to install the new FMF silencer next. Next thing we're going to do, now that we've got the spring or the shock back in here, is we're going to go ahead and install the plastic here on the side. And this one is a little tricky, you got to line up a number of things at once. So it's going to go underneath. And you want to get it on top of these black ones. Okay. And that is a 6mm hex. So again, with the seat, you just slide front of it underneath, and then it drops down. You can insert the bolts this one in, tighten it nice and snug, and the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put the silencer back on.